All right. Today is December 11th. I don't know how long this thing will take to air, but it is December 11th. I guess a day that will live in infamy. Some people say that the January 6th should also be put on the same platform as 9/11. And at this point, I don't know. I don't really care. I kind of want to laugh again because everything has just been one big. Like we in the society, we don't have a shared reality, and it's kind of sad. And it kind of disappoints me, and part of me just wants to laugh again. So, yeah, the Queen of England, she's passed on too. Boo hoo hoo. Yeah, Darren says January 6th was worse than 9/11 and Pearl Harbor combined. Of course, he's joking, but that is a joke. Anyone who, in my opinion, anyone who puts January 6th or 9/11 with either one of those days, uh, kind of stupid, in my opinion. There are other people that believe it, and I think they primarily believe it for ego purposes and political purposes. And I've said this before. I think that ego is a much bigger driver in first world nations than profit. And people are driven right now. We're seeing a very egocentric country. I mean, social justice and woke culture seems to be primarily among people with means. On average, there are, but there are people who don't necessarily have to struggle. Someone who is an immigrant to this country, whether they're legal or illegal, who are trying to get their stuff together, doesn't have time to contemplate um, certain subjects, and a lot of these people they make things so complex. Uh, Although I doubt that they could necessarily solve too many complex problems if they came down the pike, but they're into all of. I mean, like you listen to some of these individuals on TikTok, and they come with all of these. They come with all of these like crazy kind of philosophies, and like it's like, where do you come up with this? Where do you come up with this shit? Where do you come up with this stuff? My God, it sounds absurd. It sounds ridiculous. People should be ashamed. So I'm looking here on Twitter on the death of the Queen. Her funeral. She died at 96. She lived longer than my mother did. And yeah, I mean, there are people that are royalist and think, it's kind of a sad day and it's something that we should have respect and remember. And then there are also a few people that are cheering. There's a lot from the woke crowd and the racial consciousness crowd that are cheering the death of of the Queen, the Queen of England. I don't know if you call her the Queen of Scots or the Queen of England, but plenty of people are mourning. Most people, I think, a lot of people in America, I don't know if they really care that much. And then there are also a lot of people that are rather rejoicing. I really have mixed opinions, but the people who are rejoicing seem to be rather stupid and disgusting, in my opinion. And the people who complain about the royal family and all this seem also to be rather disgusting people. Again, I find it kind of ironic that a lot of some of the people complaining, they live in Europe, and they're either they or their family members immigrated to the country just to say how oppressed they are. And here's my belief, usually you flee oppression, you don't come to it. Most oppressed people try to escape their oppression. It's just egocentric. It sounds a lot like egocentric nonsense, and we are living in an egocentric world where people think it's all about them and the wrong that's been done to them historically. And it's all about their ethnicity and their race and this and that. And if you question them on certain things, on the on the validity of their claims, you say compared to what? Was England the only place that practiced conquest? Didn't all groups? Isn't conquest part of human nature? I should have called this show "The Queen, the Colonial Empire, and Conquest Ethic." Conquest is part of human nature. And as of now, the left in America, and I believe also in the West throughout the Anglosphere, has done a very good job at conquest. And they're not doing it by intellect or by discussion. They're doing it by economics. They control a lot of the institutions, and they invoke fear. If you say the wrong thing, they can debank you, deplatform you, and otherwise harm you. And they are going out to settle policy. So we got Brian Stafford, and he's saying hello, Darren. I guess, and this guy has the same name as me, which is Brian, which is a good thing. And they are having a little bit of a conversation out there. I've been away for a while, trying to get myself better, and I tried to contact Joe, but Joe is nowhere to be found. What happened to you, Joe? Where are you? I'm gonna text him right now, as we speak, and see if he's even gonna be around. Joey, where are you? Hoo hoo hoo. I'm on the air. That's what I'm telling him. Whoopsie. Do 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 do. All right. Yeah, so there's a lot of hypocrisy, and I think that hypocrisy is abuse. It's a form of abuse. And hypocritical values lead to hypocrisy. And I also believe that human beings are entitled to both due process and contrition. Something that I don't think woke culture allows either. They say that due process is only in a court of law And I disagree with that. Due process is more than just something that happens in a court of law. It's something that happens, or that should happen in a civil society. Just about any time there is punitive action, there should be a form of due process. And Brian Stafford says, no, sir, no jabs, haven't been sick in almost 3 years. So he didn't get the shot, and he didn't get sick. That is really amazing. I've gotten jabbed, and it is what it is. And I thought I was following the science. The thing is, we can't even talk about it. We can't even talk about the pandemic. We can't even talk about why did we shut this whole country down. 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and then it went for over a year. And Darren says he's had COVID 3 times, and it was like a bad cold for him. Then I got this homeless guy who's screaming up a storm. I'm going to tell him to shut up. Just shut the hell up. Shut up, you bearded old man. Shut up. But I'm not going to do that. He's outside. I might just go out my window and tell that dude to shut the hell up. Shut up. Now. No, I'm not going to do that. Anyway, so Brian Stanford says he did not fall for the pandemic. And who knows whether it was planned or whether it was bad information or whether it was good information. It's a thing that certainly should be discussed, and clarity is not something that we're given. Whether it is about election integrity or it's about the vaccine. We're not given any of that. We're not allowed to talk about it in an open forum. You know, you think, you know, they used to say again, and I say this 1,000 times, you know, the internet was supposed to be the age of information. It's certain kinds of information that they want you to hear, and it seems like when they're wrong, they don't apologize. They just move on. To me, who gave you the mic to speak? Yeah, Dr. Fauci seems not to tell the truth. Well, maybe he doesn't. And who knows what motivates Dr. Fauci? Who knows what motivates certain people? I've said before, I do believe that ego is a big factor with regards to motivation, and it's a bigger factor, I think, than profit. Ego and ideology. I would rather have somebody want to make a profit than want to espouse and force an ideology on me. I'd rather have someone try to take money from me, because at least if he's taking money, he's trying to please me. Somebody with an ideology and ego basically is going to end up doing far more harm than someone who wants to make a profit off me. Because on average, when people want to make money and a profit off you, they want to try to please you. There's less force involved. I'd rather someone be a grifter for money. But that's not the case. On either side, on either the right or the left, they believe in what they say. They absolutely, believe hard, in their heart and their soul in what they say. And on average, and on average, it's more the left that doesn't want to discuss the issue or go further down the rabbit hole. So I think Big Pharma was the big winner. Fauci set it up, then Biden pushed it and eventually mandated the vaccine. I think there's some complex. I think that there is I think there's some complex issues here. I think that ego and profit kind of played each other. And the same thing with the last housing crisis. They thought there were good intentions. And again, I think that ego plays a part, and they think that they know what is right. And then when they mess up, that's when the cover up starts to begin. I could be wrong on that, but that's where my mind is taking me. That ego is a much, much bigger thing than profit. I believe that we went into war with Iraq primarily because of ego. And 9/11, I mean, why did we go to war with Iraq and not Iran? Iran, was far more related to the militants, the Islamic militants that attacked the New York Trade Center on 9/11 than Iraq was. I mean, from my understanding, Saddam Hussein did not like Islamic militants. I mean, he was a bad guy, no doubt. But compared to the fanaticism of Iran, and yeah, I'll go back to that again. I think two sides played hands here. Ego first, and there was profit to be made. But I still believe that ego is a bigger issue than profit, particularly with ideology and particularly with newscasters. CNN is a very ego-driven news place. TYT, the Young Turks, very ego-driven. That's why nowadays they don't want to go on. They don't want to go and debate because it really not their profit. I mean, profit is one thing, but it's also their ego. I remember 10 years ago, I believe over 10 years ago, when on my Mr. Midnight Movie Twitter, I asked race grifter, anti-racist grifter, Tim Wise, I asked him a question about white farm murders in South Africa. And he gave me somewhat of a thoughtful answer. And he said it's really a bad thing, but it doesn't compare to apartheid. And then I asked him another question, a follow-up question. I forget how it was phrased, but he didn't continue the conversation. And then after Trump got elected, a few things went down the pike. I forget who was the first one to say it about white farmers in South Africa, but Tucker Carlson ended up picking that issue up. And then Trump said he would look into it, and then they automatically shut it down because of the left. There are legitimate questions to be asked about certain things, and people say, well, it's not our country, but we've been involved in foreign affairs. We and the West were greatly responsible for the regime change in South Africa. And now we can't discuss that issue. And people say, the one argument is that people say is, well, white supremacist, it's a white supremacist talking point, is that white supremacists share this talking point. And my argument to them is, well, then we should stop the Free Palestine movement, because Hamas, a known terrorist organization, shares that talking point. Anyway, I got Joe. He texted me again. He said he'll be home in 15 minutes. And I hope he'll do a follow-up show. But again, I think that we're living in the age of hypocrisy. And if I want to laugh about the hypocrisy and the hypocrites, I should be able to. Now, the fact is, if I get punished for that, so what? And I'm not here to try to get Trump supporters or Biden supporters, anybody like that. I'm just here to give out the brutal truth the way I see it. And you have to hit me in the head. Don't hit me in the heart. Hit me in the head. Because on average, I don't see. I see a lot of things done. The people in power seem to be doing things like manipulating and being emotional, and they won't discuss with you certain things. And they certainly won't discuss. Let's talk about the vaccine and get on strike. Well, there should be talk about the vaccine, and there should be talk about how we handled this COVID situation, because a lot of people were hurt, and maybe that hurt was necessary. But we should certainly talk about it, and we should also talk about the riots, because people were hurt there too. We should be able to talk about it. You said Biden got sued today, I guess, for controlling Instagram and Twitter. He might have. I don't know. I mean, like I said, right now, it's hard to know what the truth is, because the establishment right now isn't honest. And I think, again, I do believe that it is ego more than it is about money. People, and most people believe what they're telling you is correct and for your own good. And there's a sense like, yeah, I did good. And then when that turns out to be wrong, that's when they start to gaslight, or they don't want to talk about this. They don't want to talk about it anymore. And now it might be legal, like for CNN, when they said stuff about Nick Sandmann, they never talked about like, oh, we made a mistake. And they made plenty of mistakes. And it's like, how do you get a microphone, and how are you able to speak to millions of people and make the mistakes that you do? Don't you have any shame or honor? What's wrong with you? And then you said everything is an illusion. Illusion meaning it looks like one thing, but it's another again and again. And again, you know what? Who knows what is in the mind of anybody or anybody in power? But like I said, I kind of think that human beings, to a degree, they kind of think alike. And I guess I can speak for myself. Ego's big with me. I mean, by nature, I can, I guess, try to get rid of it, but it's there. And I think I know what I'm talking about. And I think that I can influence individuals. And I think others think the same. And I think when they're proven wrong, there's shame to that. There's humiliation to that. So they'd rather just sweep that under the rug, or call it hate speech, or including misinformation, or we can't talk about that. And this has been happening for years. Not just during the age of the internet. The internet actually was a time when people started to really question narratives. When YouTube first came out, people began to question a lot of narratives. And instead of debating the people, they just simply called it hate speech. And they kicked a lot of YouTubers off. And I'm not talking about Alex Jones. There were people who had, what looked to be rather solid arguments, and then they just, excused them as first was hate speech, and then and who decides what is hate speech? There's no real clarity on it. Basically, it's any time you say something unsavory or unsavory or unkind about so-called underclasses or protected groups being people that they consider to be marginalized. and it doesn't matter whether the situation is real or not. They're going to protect them, right or wrong. And now it's misinformation. And who decides what's misinformation? And then when they're proven wrong, and they've called what you said misinformation, and then the information happens to be right, hey, you're going to be kind of pissed off. You're going to be kind of angry. I mean, is there any place where human beings can just talk together and speak together on a number of issues and a number of subjects? These woke leftists, in my opinion, have destroyed every big city, have hurt every big city, have hurt freedom of speech and freedom of expression. I mean, it's always been kind of bad. Hollywood's always, for as long as I can remember, has always been kind of woke lefty, but it's gotten worse. Now, if you try to do things independently, they'll shut you down. If you try to do a play that's a little racy, even if it's true, they'll try to shut you down. They'll threaten to blow up the theater and this and that. And the thing is, these people formed online. They were given power by social media. And you can't speak out against them because they'll shut you down on social media. And if you try to do something on the street or like try to rent a hall, they'll shut you down there too. It sucks. Well, yeah, Biden has lied, but again, I think a lot of these politicians, they believe their lies. I remember the 1994 crime bill that had bipartisan support, by the way, and maybe getting tough on crime was something to do. Maybe not for everything, but like some of these criminals who are habitually stealing and committing crime, they're pretty bad. And I've heard that Portland, the criminals have made it unlivable. The homeless have made it unlivable. Same thing with Seattle. They've made it unlivable. San Francisco. I used to love to go to San Francisco. I'm a foodie. I love to go out and get some food. And the homeless were bad there even before COVID. Now it's even worse. We have major cities that are run by mob violence. Particularly Portland was run by mob violence. And nobody, like, the Republican Party doesn't say anything about this. This is unprecedented. Mayor Wheeler, the mayor of Portland, got smashed in the face. Never happened. Things like that never happened before. It's insane. It's nuts. These people are unhinged lunatics. And here we go, like, there it is. And they should be laughed at. They're jokes. The other people, some of the Trump supporters, they're kind of funny too. I don't necessarily even take all of them seriously either. But they're far less likely to get violent with me. Just kind of sad. Anyway, I've been rambling on, just going on about the Queen or about anything else. Let me see what else is on Twitter. Trump is in D.C. You look at what they're doing to Tulsi Gabbard. And how absurd it is. Now let's see what the people say about Tulsi Gabbard. And this guy says, of course, a racist tweet from Tulsi on the day we should be uniting, but she can't help. How much did Russia pay you? And this is Tulsi, it appears you become one of those who make a false statement to stay relevant. Your statement is so misleading because you ignore the fact that we fought a war for 21 years after 9/11, took out bin Laden and his cronies. The real threat to America is internal. And you're doing it again. Oh, this is from an Indian, by the way. You're again doing the mistakes of snarling fundamentalists, but sparing the fundamentalist. Islam is the root cause. Without others wouldn't exist. Read the Quran, the Hadith, making false and leading statements. Let me back up here real quick. And this is, okay, here's the thing that she's, okay, this is, and look at this. Look at this. Russian asset. I mean, just silly. Just stupid. You know, you look at, like, she's a Russian asset? That's the argument you come up with? You sound like buffoons. Hillary once suggested that someone in the DNC was being groomed by Moscow to become a Russian asset. Hillary didn't mention any names, but I sued her for $50 million because I felt insulted. I dropped the lawsuit before the trial, and now I spend my time on Fox News spreading Russian propaganda with Tucker Carlson. It's unbelievable. It's just, that sounds stupid. I mean, I don't know. You know what? Maybe it's intelligent. That sounds stupid to me. And the same thing, the manner in which they go after Alan Dershowitz. It's just stupid, man. You sound moronic. Anyway, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I know I didn't say a lot of things that were funny, but, you know, I used to hang out with you know, like I used to love to go to midnight movies. I hung out with the gays. I hung out with the transsexuals. Here's another thing. Anyone here remember Jerry Springer? Jerry Springer would bring on, you know, the trans, you know, surprise, I'm a man, you know, and they'd come on and their boyfriend doesn't know, and they'd bring them out and they'd go, you know I love you, right? You know I love you. And they'd go, boo, and go, don't boo me, you don't know me. Honey, you know I love you, right? But I'm a man. And that they used to do that. I mean, even the trans people knew, and I could be wrong on this, but even the trans people knew that they were men. Now it's, what is a woman? I don't know. The world's gone upside down. It's a crazy world. We can't discuss certain things. We can't have honest conversations without people boo-hooing and crying. I'll laugh what I want to. I'll talk about what I want. And if you don't agree that I should have that right, go to hell. Anyway, this is Brian with Transparency and Merit. Like, subscribe, leave a comment down below.